Okay, so we have no new hearings tonight. Our continued hearings have been continued. 18th, so we'll jump into work session items. We have a few documents for review. Sue, 84 Pine Island, the extension permit, Eversource 52 Wilson Street, a certificate of compliance, and an RDA for 105 Saddle Hill Road for determination of applicability.
Yes. So, this is the RDA.
Thank you. Yeah, it's on the front here.
Don't have them sign up. Yeah, you're good.
She's not here. Maybe.
Okay, draft minutes for August 23rd, 2022. Everyone get a chance to review those. Any questions or comments? And a motion to approve the minutes of August 23rd. And a second, please.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Okay, Town of Hopkinton, DPW, Lake Maspinock request to use the toolbox item.
Good evening,
Mr. Weston.
through the chair, good evening, members of the commission. So the Department of Public Works, working with our Lake Maspinock Weed Management Advisory Committee, that committee, they did a recent lake survey, and they found that the condition of the lake and the weeds in the lake were very, very bad. Very poor condition as far as water quality was good, but the amount of weeds was extreme. So the committee went to the toolbox and selected the drawdown as the most appropriate tool out of the toolbox to use at this time. Because it's easy to implement, it's practically no cost, and in the past, 5 years ago, we found that the results from that drawdown, we had perfect conditions in the winter. The effect was that there was a major kill-off of the weeds in the lake. So the recommendation to the Director of Public Works and the Department of Public Works was a drawdown. We are asking for consideration of an 8-foot drawdown this year, only because the weeds are so bad. As I said, 5 years ago, it proved very effective when we went down to 8 feet. 2 years ago, we went down to 8 feet, and the conditions were not suitable for a great weed kill-off because we had a very mild winter. We didn't have a lot of freeze that would kill off the weeds. So, in support of that, the Conservation Commission, through its order of conditions, had issued a number of conditions related to lake drawdown. So I provided some information. I only provided it late this afternoon through Anna. So I know that there's a lot of information here. This is new for us to have to provide this type of information because in the past we would just follow the operation and maintenance plan for the dam and we would do the lake drawdown to 5 feet or 8 feet every 3 years. But we've provided the information. There's a lot of good information in here, supported by David Mitchell, our limnologist. We provided that information. So that's our request, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I will open it up to questions and comments from the commission members.
I have a timing question. I am fully inclined to say yes to this, will be my vote, but I do think it makes sense to have a chance to read the documents. Are you under a time crunch right now?
Typically, the operation and maintenance plan for the dam calls for the gate that controls the level of the lake to be open late September, early October. So we are at that point where we would typically be opening the gate. And the reason that we wouldn't want to push it too late is because with the rate of drawdown that's allowed, to be able to allow the flow on the downstream downstream stream, to support the wildlife along and in that stream requires a certain flow. And we wouldn't want to exceed that because the drawing down the lake too quickly would exceed that recommended flow rate. But I hear you, there's a lot of information that was required, and it was only just submitted today, so I understand.
Can we, so we do the standard drawdown every year.
Yes, we do.
Could we initiate with the standard drawdown? That would give us time to review it. Our next meeting's on the 18th. If everything looks good, then we can just give the thumbs up for the extended drawdown. You can open the gate even further.
I
So
think
you
that's,
have, a few weeks of the drawdown going under the normal conditions.
Yep.
And then after the October 18th, if everything looks okay, we can authorize the extended drawdown.
I think that's a sensational plan.
Does that work for
I like
everyone?
that.
Makes sense, yeah.
Is there a regulation on the frequency at which the 8-foot drawdown can be done?
So, in the operation and maintenance plan for the dam that was done by Power Engineering, it calls for a triennial, and I know that the Conservation Commission had approved a drawdown of 5 feet, but would consider an 8-foot drawdown on a per-needed basis. So again, we did it 2 years ago, we didn't get a good weed kill. We're asking for it again this year because of how bad the weed growth is.
I mean, in theory, it could be done every year.
It could?
Just
Yes.
my own idle curiosity.
One of the things that, in the supporting information in here, there is the flyover that was done 5 years ago, and it shows what elevations are exposed along the lake with the 8-foot drawdown.
Okay.
I have a curiosity question too, just
Sure.
about, so while the lake is drawn down to 8 feet, is there any removal of vegetation that can happen in that area that's now exposed, to prevent, to help the freezing get down, or is that a consideration, or ever been a consideration?
Good question, but one that we had never asked. I guess that'd be an opportunity for the folks that live around the lake, if they wanted to clear out in front of their property, as long as the muck wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in entertaining that if anyone thought about that or wanted to present that to the commission. I mean, I think that's a opportunity that, like you said, individual homeowners or the lake association, if you have, I mean, I assume that exposes quite a bit of the bed there right in front of their properties,
Right.
that where they would swim in the summer.
Probably not something that the DPW would do or hire anyone to do.
Right.
But it might be a good message to put out to the LMPA if the Conservation Commission was open to that here's an opportunity for you to get out and, what might be above your knees or above your waders or otherwise you weren't able to remove those weeds is a good time to take those out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as long as it's like hand-picked, and they're not in there with, some
backhoe.
folks have,
Which may not come out.
small excavator or backhoe or,
Right.
they have the John Deere, type things.
Along that line, I seem to remember a comment that one of the drawdowns might not have worked because the weeds essentially were a mulch pile, and they were creating heat, making it so that the ground underneath had more trouble freezing. Your face looks confused, but I think I didn't indicate that.
That was talked about on the boat ride.
Oh, was it on the
When we were
boat
on the
that someone
boat
said that?
ride,
Okay.
it was
I didn't think I
mentioned.
made that up out of nothing.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that makes a lot of sense if that's something that people can or want.
And it is, in essence, one of the tools in the toolbox, is it not?
The 8-foot drawdown?
No, the
Hand
hand.
picking.
Hand picking is, yes.
Yeah. so-
Yep. Hand harvesting, yes.
Okay, so, I don't think we need to vote tonight since it's the standard drawdown initially, and then at the next meeting, after we've gotten a chance to review the material, we'll vote on the extended drawdown
Outstanding.
on the 18th.
My thanks to the commission.
Sure. And I don't think you need to be here for that, we can just,
Okay.
Yeah, but we'll have another,
If
I'll
there-
have another
would it
loaf
be-
of bread.
Would it be bread?
okay. Sounds good.
Thank you all very much.
Mr. Westland.
And thank you for your help in the interim.
Sure.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
So Anna, are you gonna slice him a piece of bread, or is he gonna, these guys gonna walk out?
It's okay, it's okay.
Difficult conversation.
Okay, for Valentine Circle, this is a request for a certificate of compliance.
Good evening, Mark Arnold with Goddard Consulting here on behalf of Tom Lucier. He's actually the former owner of 4 Valentine Circle actually now. So he's trying to close out the permit on the property as a good homeowner. So this is a COC request for an order of conditions that was issued as part of closing out an old order of conditions, DP 188-485, I think, so going back quite a few years. And so that order of conditions was issued mainly to rectify the issues with the wetland replication and restoration that was occurred because of the crossing that occurred on the property. That was the main issue that order was issued to deal with. So this is a reference to the commission and the area. We have Valentine Road is up here, and this is Valentine Circle here. Basically, it's a paper road, and there's a gravel driveway that starts up here, comes down through here, and then you end up transitioning to an asphalt driveway for Mr. Lucier's house here, and there's a gravel driveway that goes to a secondary house over here.
Secondary house or a second house?
It's a second house. It's a second house. So it's it's another house. Another house, separate owner, separate. The permit was not tied to that parcel. It was just to this parcel here. So this plan shows similar. Almost all the conditions here are what was shown previously to the commission. The issues were with the wetland replication area here, and then there was also a BVW enhancement area here that was built. So these areas were originally worked and restored and done stuff back in like 2015, 2016, and then due to basically issues try to get in compliance, we needed a new order of conditions just to reset the stage for what was required, so we had a template for what was needed to work through what needed to be done. And so that included plantings in both areas of ferns, ferns and shrubs and trees in this area, shrubs and trees in this area here. So this area here has already had a fairly good dominance of a lot of sweet-pear bush, high bush blueberry, cinnamon ferns. There's some white pines in there as well. A lot of herbaceous vegetation as well. And the plantings were just, the goal was to help add some trees to the area, but also just to densify the shrub layer that was already there. Including with that was a lot of invasive species removal, which Mr. Lucier has done a really good job at removing. I've seen it's been really good to see how much it's all gone. Basically, it was when I first was there 2 years ago. It was coming in very thick, and he spent a lot of time, personal time, pulling it, which was so I showed him what it looked like. He was very careful, and he showed me his piles, and he did a very good job at very carefully hand pulling out each of the buckthorns to remove them from there. This area here didn't have invasives really. It was more just planting shrubs and trees and ferns to help add to the herbaceous vegetation that was already there in the area. So we filed the COC. We submitted in that COC request a spring report from this year. We've had issues on both of these areas with significant deer browsing. So we've had a lot of plantings actually get killed. So I was looking back at my notes, and this area we planted 6 extra trees than what was originally planned, just to try to get to the numbers we needed, and we still lost some. Probably was the deer browsing, and then this year didn't help because of the summer. And then this one here, we did, I think there was 9 extra trees we planted here.
Okay.
So right now, Mr. Lucier's being very honest. We went out there today again just to double check to see what the summer did, and we only had 3 trees here out of the 8 that were supposed to be in. We needed 90% survival, and then we only found We only found 7 of the plantings here, but we do have a lot of yellow birch that came in. So if you count the yellow birch trees that are in here, we have enough trees here. So shrubs are good on both of them. We have more than 90%. The ferns also have struggled. They're maybe more sensitive than I could find because of the summer. The ferns, you probably noticed, died off really early this summer. The cinnamon and the sensitive they frizzled like crazy. But the spring we didn't find enough as it is. But there is very dense herbaceous vegetation there, and I did. So this is the restoration area here, looking from this direction here. It's looking this direction here, so there's some white pines that are coming in just on the inside the area. This is the center area. So this area is basically, it was just enhancement. So when you walk it, it's a really lush, there's a lot of high bush blueberry, a lot of sweetberry bush, and you can see all the cinnamon fern that are in there. It's a very nice and dense thing. I kind of wish we could just move some because they're just doing so well there. But unfortunately, I wasn't around when, usually we do transplanting. If we do work like this, I usually try to transplant a lot of stuff in because this transplants usually do well. But and then this is the area over here. I'm looking from this direction here. And again, we have, there's no bare soil in the area. It's completely herbaceous vegetation. And if you look, I mean, Joe's photos are in the folder too. They'll show the same conditions. So the only thing that we're really asking for is the fact that we have an attempt to plant the trees, to keep them alive. Deer browsing is then killing the shrubs. We've replanted shrubs and they all made it. So that was good. But the trees didn't make it. And so that's the only question, that's the only issue that's really outstanding here with regards to the COC.
Got it. And I think Joe went out there today, or recently.
It was recently.
Yeah, he went recently, and he did mention that he wanted a second report, so I gave that to him, but he's been out there, yes.
And then he talked to Sue today and recommended closing out the COC on this site. So, Sue, did you have anything else to add?
No, just that originally he had said that the herbaceous layer probably wasn't reaching 75%, but when you combine the 3 layers, you know, cumulatively it does.
Yeah,
so.
it's always said that the goldenrod was pretty thick out there in this area particularly.
And he said the natural species coming in, the yellow birch, like you said, the sweet pepper bush and high bush blueberry are, coming in nicely. So.
Yeah, I think we should have good early successional forest there in a few years. Yeah.
Okay. Questions or comments from the commission? I get a motion to close out the COC for 4 Valentine Circle.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, very good, thank you.
If you want to direct the order to me, I'll make sure it gets recorded. So the COC, I'll make sure it gets recorded, so that way we don't have any issues with that.
If someone comes up with a way to deal with deer,
Well, I talked to Kim about it, and she said when they did stuff with National Grid, she said they put up like a 9-foot fence around the whole area.
yeah.
And I was like, I like the idea, but I hate doing that at the same time. I mean, for some sites, I might have to start considering that, depending on the area, just because we just can't. We need the vegetation to establish enough for them to be there long enough for the deer to be like, okay, don't go finding dinner. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Like, I think it was Irish Spring soap.
I've heard rumors about Irish Spring soap for doing various things, whether it works for those things or not, I don't know. I can attest that I have kept squirrels out of the hummingbird feeder with 110 volts.
Okay. We brought the signature page.
Okay, thank you.
It's pretty funny when they hit it. They dance quite and make a big jump.
Okay, moving along, 40 Rocky Woods, this is a request for a COC.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mr. McIntyre.
Good evening. Here tonight representing the Allens.
If the chairman would allow me to make one more comment. Sure. Squirrels are not like teenage boys. Teenage boys would be daring each other to touch that. Squirrels, man, one hit it and nobody else got on it.
You should have known to say no.
You sound like you speak from experience.
Yes, on both counts.
That's why Ed has such, early electroshocks. Okay, back to business.
Alrighty. So this was a septic system replacement that was done, about a year ago now. And it was just finished off this last spring with the loam and seed. So it looked pretty good to us. I know Lucas was out there. They had some comments about the placement of the medallions. We added one more where they requested it down here, in addition to the sign. We thought the one that we have it on the tree over here was, well, this one right here, was more, it was visible to people in the yard, but not obtrusive as if we moved it up to this tree here. So we're recommending we just leave it where it is now.
Okay.
The grass looked decent. It's not fully in because of the summer, but quite a bit of growth there, and there's no erosion that was obvious to anyone.
Yep. Okay. I think Joe also recommended this one to be closed out, and can we have this plan? Because I think the one that we had didn't have the signature, right?
Oh, no, it was the sheet, the certification sheet, you had stamped it but didn't sign it, is one of his comments.
Yeah, I sent a PDF of that over, though, to you.
Oh, you did?
Okay, so we have that now?
Yeah, but you can leave this, I'll give this as a hard copy, and you have the PDF of this as well.
Okay.
Okay. All right, questions or comments from the commission? And a motion to close out the COC for 40, or to issue the COC for 40 Rocky Woods.
So moved.
And second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, Hopkinton Town Forest, this is an exemption request for a bridge construction.
Hello, everybody.
Good evening.
All right, so I'm Steve Lewandowski, so
Nice to meet you.
representing OSPC.
And
So
I can attest that this is Steve Lewandowski, if there's any doubt.
I'm fighting off a cold, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so the request is just to build a bridge across the stream on one of the trails in Town Forest.
Yep, similar to what
we
you
have-
guys have done in other areas in town.
Yep. Yeah, so it would be about 30 feet in length to span all the muddy areas on either side.
Okay.
And it would be pretty similar to the bridge we just built over the summer, about 2.5 feet wide, kind of tapered so you can mountain bike over it.
Right, yeah. That was the one over at the Hughes property that you're referring to?
This was, it's actually another one in Town Forest that you guys approved earlier this year.
Okay, that was at the Town Forest as well.
Yep, so I think there's, if you scroll down, there's a photo. So that's the area. So you can see there's stepping stones that people use to get across, which when it actually has water, gets very wet and slippery.
Yeah.
Not so nice for running, cycling. So the plan is to try to expand that.
This is the area sort of like in the southwesterly corner.
It is, it's not the area where the beavers are. It's the other trail east of that. So it's the blue trail. Yep, so that's the basic design. So 4x6 stringers, 2x6 treads, and it would be built in sections with 6x6 footers between the sections. So that's the one we just built on the red trail.
Does it have the ramp at the ends for like the mountain bikes to get up on? or-
Yep, so it's tapered down to be pretty flush with the ground. If there are, big rocks at the end, we can use those to put up to.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Any questions? All right, and it's an exemption request, so we don't need to vote on it. So I think you're good to go.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay.
Take care, Steve.
All right, see you later.
Yeah, hope you feel better.
Yeah, thanks.
Lake Maspinock, this is the weed status and site to visit. So, Ed and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yeah,
How did that go?
it was really great. It's a nice bit of socializing, a nice bit of learning, a nice bit of seeing what's going on. Like property that's supposed to have a filtration sort of planting, it doesn't. I'm sure that Ted may have some other observations. The weeds, I mean, I brought some pictures of Whitehall just for fun, so that if anyone doesn't know what Whitehall looks like or looked like umpteen years ago, I have pictures to show. I mean, weeds are, you know, it's a semi-natural process that it's exacerbated by, you know, what we do. You know, like the cove behind our house, we used to moor our sailboat there. The cove behind our house now, you need an icebreaker to get out of, and I have pictures, you know. I mean, they've got a heron sitting out there on a hunk of mud that, you know, yeah, didn't used to be there. So I sympathize with the people on the lake, you know, dealing with this. The fact that the plan came in as a drawdown pleased me greatly, because I really figured they were gonna, you know, go for a chemical treatment the first time around, which I would have had heartburn over that. Ted?
I saw more weeds than we saw before.
Yeah.
So I was convinced that that's true, and there were parts of the lake where I remember being slashed in one of their presentations as this would be a candidate for chemical use. And I remember being out there both on the pontoon boat and my sailboat and saying there were no weeds there, why are we slashing? Well, now there are some weeds. It was not a scientific trip, nor am I a scientist, but it sure seemed to me the closer we were to those yards that aren't doing what we have asked people to do, the more weeds there were. The closer we were to those shores where it was a natural shoreline, or where the yards were allowed to grow, there were fewer weeds there. It could have been completely coincidental, I don't know, but to me it was a noticeable part of our spin around the lake, where there were more lake-friendly yards, there were fewer weeds in front of that area as we boated around. And that to me was interesting, but I don't have any science behind it. So.
Yeah, a couple of things I thought were just interesting observations were they talked about how there's different species of weeds now than there were before, like completely different weeds.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I don't know what's going on
you know,
with that, but.
You know, like in New Hampshire, the control that's at boat ramps is, I mean, pretty serious, whereas, you know, up here, it's like, you know,
Yeah, I don't
you
think
throw your
there's
boat in
any-
the water, and that's that. And, you know, with power boats, the weeds and stuff can get in the cooling of the outboard, assuming it's a water-cooled outboard. With sailboats, you can get caught up in the centerboard box and things like that, and then you go someplace else, and, you know, you transport it, and there's no really easy way to get that stuff out.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought was interesting observation that they pointed out was that the properties where you have a lot of kids swimming activity did not have weeds. Like, I mean, it was like the floating thing, trampoline, whatever, like no weeds. I mean, we saw the bottom, we saw sand. And then you go to the next property over where there's not activity, you know, in front of that property, tons of weeds. I mean, it was, there was a direct correlation, and they made that comment too. So I don't know what that means or how you could use it to your benefit other than just trucking kids in and having them play in front of everybody's yards.
Well, it makes me think of the residents who came in and said, my kids can't swim because they're touching weeds. And I think, well, let them touch the weeds, let them rip them out, and then you might have a better area.
It was interesting, I don't know.
All right. So you missed
Plenty
a
of
good
kids that will
time.
go around, especially if you bring those trampolines, just move them.
So yeah, just
move
put
them
more,
around.
and they can just trampoline hop around the lake.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, have a little,
Okay. Yeah, our observations from, because I'm on the Maspinock Weed Committee group, or the Weed Committee, was that, like in the North Basin, it was pretty bad, but in the other areas of the lake, it wasn't really so bad this year. You know, it was generally, you know, a little bit weedier than it was last year, but, you know, it wasn't like out of control, so to speak. So,
We only toured the North Basin. We didn't go down the lake the way we did the last time we went out on the pontoon.
okay, that's probably why they didn't take it down there, because in the south area, it wasn't really that bad this year.
To highlight my point, Jeff, you know the lake better than I, but there's a lake. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
So for example, in this area, there were not a whole lot of lawns that go right to the lake area. And as we boated through there were not a lot of weeds, and I asked what the depth was, and it was about the same. Over here, there are tons of weeds.
Right.
And again, it's not scientific, but just to give you a map to show you what I'm talking about.
Yep.
I don't know if there's a direct correlation or not, but it certainly struck me.
Yep, okay. And we have the, so our committee's been working with the Lake Maspinock Preservation Association to get the word out to all the lake residents, to let them know, you know, you shouldn't be using fertilizers. You know, if you want to go out and hand pick the weeds, you can do that. Try to prevent things from running off your property into the lake, you know, and those types of things. So that effort got stepped up this past summer. All right. Anything else?
Would it be appropriate for me to ask along the same discussion, has there been follow-up with 1 Oakhurst?
That I don't know. Anna, do you know?
There hasn't been.
There hasn't been, okay. Should we have Joe swing out there, or maybe wait till Kim gets back?
I think we need to wait till Kim gets back, because I don't know kind of how to approach that. They have a permit to do it, but I don't know that we can force them to do it at a certain point.
Right, okay,
The permit's good for 3 years, so I think that's something we should run by Kim.
okay. That sound okay?
Sure.
I think Kim's back next week.
She'll be back on Monday.
Wow.
All right, and she was actually in the office today visiting Kim and Anna with the baby. So. Okay, any public forum requests? Anna? Anything else, Sue?
Nope.
So this is Sue's last evening with us. I just,
Gonna miss us.
yeah, you know, Sue did a great job, thank you.
Thank you very, very much. And if I had known, I would have brought another loaf.
No worries.
We might give Ed a heads up so he can plan
In the
appropriate
future, like
celebration.
Sarah
So keep in touch with us, you know.
I might be filing something in front of you at some point. Who knows, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Show mercy on me.
Well, when you're on that side of the table, we, you know, not gonna be as nice. All right, motion to adjourn the meeting,
I'll make that motion.
second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Get to go to bed early tonight.